Well, hello everybody, and welcome back. I'm AJ O'Neill. This is, I think, the first stream of the new year, unless I had one on the very first. No, I think it's the first stream of the new year, and we are doing a project. So, the project is pretty simple. I want to be able to track my laptop. So I carry my laptop around with me. For example, I travel to Virginia. Sometimes I take it to work. I have it here at home, etc., etc. And I have a buddy who likes to whitelist. When we do video calls, he's got an instance of Jitsi set up that's whitelisted, so only allowed IPs can get to it. And so I just tell him, hey, this is my domain, and that's what my IP is, whatever the domain is. And there's a couple of other instances where when my device is somewhere where it usually isn't, I still want to be able to tell a bit into it through SSH and stuff. And so I just want to have my home address as well as my devices tracked what IP address they're at. And so we're going to use DuckDNS to do that. DuckDNS is a free service that I don't know who hosts it. Somebody hosts it. Oh, excuse me. And you can log in with a bunch of different things, and each thing you log in with is a different account. So I'm going to go ahead and, well, let me finish the pitch here. So we're going to do this in Posix Shell, or some people say Posix. I need to actually look up the pronunciation and see what's correct, because, you know, GIF and JIF and all that, but I can't stand people that say GIF, so it's GIF. And Posix, I call it Posix. It just sounds more right. Anyway, but I could maybe be persuaded. So we're going to create a repo for this, and we're going to do it in the we're going to make it Posix compliant so that it will work in Bash. But Posix is actually much simpler than Bash. There's far less to learn. It's more streamlined. And so, but it'll work in Docker containers. It will work on Mac. It'll work on Linux. It'll work on Alpine Linux. It'll work in even small environments. I think BusyBox provides a Posix compliant shell. I'm not 100% on that. Anyway, we'll go ahead and get started. But before we do, pop a tap, my friends, because we're going to have a quick word from our not a sponsor, Mr. Mountain Dew. Oh, there it is. And open focus. Ah, wonderful. Okay, so first, we're going to create the repository. I don't have a repository template yet for shell scripts, so we're not going to go with any repository template. We're going to call this DuckDNS.sh. It's going to be a Posix shell script, and this is going to be, I don't know what the other ones are like, but this one is going to maintain, well, I'll create an issue to say what we're going to do with it. Let's see, .gitignore. No .gitignore for now. And license. I think that we are actually going to go with Creating Commons 0 on this one. Now, I'm not going to put the license in yet. I think we will not add the README yet either. We're just going to create the repository. And before we even do any of this stuff here, which we'll want to do that too, we're just going to go ahead and create an issue with the v1.0 roadmap. Oh, by the way, I totally forgot to open the chat. So out of it. Okay, now I've got the chat open. So hit me up in the chat if you want to. There we go. Pull that right there so that I can get to it easily. And boom. Okay, cool. All right, chat is now up. And okay, so our roadmap is that we need a way to be able to check what the IP address is presently after some amount of time. So, well, let's I'm let me try to think from the innermost part of this to the outermost part of this. So first thing we need is DuckDNS API. So update with token via DuckDNS API. That's the first thing that we need to do. The next thing that we need to do is we're going to need to have some sort of a timer. So we're going to do some math to calculate, say, 5 minutes. Then we're going to need to... Wait, before we even do that, we're going to need some method of check current IP address, do some math to calc 5 minutes, and then loop that. And what else? Hold on just one second. Let me bring... I've already done this once. We're going to do it again from scratch. There needs to be some sort of... well, let me check on this first. Okay. Check current IP address. Check. Okay. Here's what we got to do. We have to store last known IP. I think whenever this starts, we probably always want to update with the token just in case somehow it got changed. Maybe once a day or something. You know, force update every 24 hours maybe. Let's see, what else are we going to need to do? We're going to need to store the IP so that we can check against it. We want to be able to accept a subdomain, so we'll see what that is in a minute, but there's going to be... We need a setup / install dependencies and service. And then what else do we need? Oh, and we want to have set up new subdomain. So subcommand to set up and install as a service. Subcommand to set up a new subdomain. So we could have 5 different subdomains that we're gonna manage on this. Okay, I think this is a good start to our roadmap. So I'm going to go ahead and click Submit Issue, and we're going to get to work on this. Now, first, let's see. Do I want to just go ahead and create the repository? Maybe I do. Let me see if I can clone this as an empty repository. I'm just going to go into temp here. A terrible place to be, but works for this. Alright, good. So I can. We're going to create our README, and this is DuckDNS.sh. One thing that you want to do when you create repositories is make sure that they link back to themselves. Whoops. Beyond code. Bootcamp, DuckDNS.sh. So this is our markdown link. And then I'm going to take what I put in the description, which now I can't find, of course. See if I can go back if it'll show it to me. No, it doesn't. All right. So whatever I put in that description, which I don't think there's any way for me to see it right now. Yeah, there's no way for me to see what the description is because this generate your repository is in the way. Okay. That's okay. So we'll just put this here. I will. Let's see. I'm going to grab a gitignore from some other project, or maybe I won't. .env.star, not .env.vault. And then .star.sw. These are vim swap files, ds store, macOS temp files. So we're going to have those. And then for the license, I actually have... I'm going to go to the rootcompany.com. On the blog, I talk about how to put something in the public domain here. So I'm going to use this little snippet for putting this into the public domain. So our license for this is actually, this is a leak, because you can't just say I'm putting it in the public domain. You have to legally put it in the public domain. So project name, DuckDNS.sh, 2023 by AJ O'Neill, and email is aj@therootcompany.com. And then what is this? System service for macOS and Linux. Let's see. There we go. All right, that'll be it. All right, Posix script for Posix shell script for Dynamic DNS. Updates through DuckDNS.org. Ah, there we go. Perfect. All right, so I'll add the license, add the .gitignore, add the README, and I'll call this initial commit, as is customary. Well, hold on just one second. Okay. There we go. And now we can go back to the project repository, hit refresh, Oh, something went wrong there. Let's try that again. Okay. There we are. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and copy that into the README. And get started here. Now, oops. Let's see. Do I not have Prettier installed here? So let's think of what the install is going to look like. I actually want this to be available on Webby, so that's what I'm going to plan for. So the install is going to be curl https webby.sh pipe sh source .config envman half.env, and then usage is going to be DuckDNS sh. Well, I think we'll call it DuckDNS.sh, so that if DuckDNS actually releases a command called DuckDNS, we're not in conflict with that. So this will be we'll have an add command. So like this. And we'll have a run command. We'll have a disable. Maybe enable, disable, and run. I think that might be what we want. And we could have examples. Updates example.duckdns.org. We could maybe have a set command. I think that could probably work. Okay, so enable this will maybe update would be the better word here. Okay, yeah, I think this makes sense. So we're going to have some switches. All right, so this would actually be update. Install a service for this. There we go. Install, uninstall. Maybe to make this shorter, it could be me instead of example. Or we could go with foo. I think that actually would be most appropriate. All right, we're gonna have enable, disable, set, and then 127.0.1. Okay. So first I'm just kind of creating the idea of what I think I want. We can go back and change this later. This is just kind of the setup of what kind of things am I going to want to be able to do. I'm going to want to be able to use multiple domains. I'm going to want to be able to set something manually, forcefully at that moment, and I'm going to want to be able to do an update at any time. All right. Whoa. Oh, hold on. I've got these lights on a timer to go to bed at these things. But I don't want to do that. So we're going to plug them in manually. What is it, CC0? What's the SPDIX for this? CC0 1.0. There we go. That's what I'm looking for. Wait, did I wonder if I referenced that in the blog post. All right, here we go. That's correct. Like this. All right, so now we've got a good README, and I'm going to go ahead and start on our tool. So I'm going to call this DuckDNS.sh, and the first thing that we need to do when it's going to be a Posix script, meaning a cross-platform compatible script, is it needs to have the shebang. So the shebang is a pound and an exclamation. That's called the shebang. It's used to define how to execute a file when a file has the executable bit set and you run it and it's text. If the operating system, if it's not a binary file, the operating system knows how to execute it. It's going to look at the shebang to figure out how to execute it. And /bin/sh is the well-known path for whatever shell is being used as the Posix shell. So that actually could be linked to bash or to dash or to ash or to a variety of shells, as long as that shell has a Posix shell mode. So the Posix shell is basically the smallest subset of all the shells. It's the simplest, it's the least complicated, it's the easiest to learn and use. It's also the one that has the fewest resources available online about it, other than the official IEEE standard for it. So we're going to start this out with set-e and set-u. And what these do, set-e, this is just boilerplate stuff that we're doing right now. So we're setting up the boilerplate. Set-e puts, and it's kind of funny because you put a minus to turn things on and a plus to turn them off. So -e is error check mode. So if there's an error, it will exit rather than continuing forward. And we want this. We don't want to have some mistake in our shell script and then to continue forward. Then we have set-u is just an even stricter mode, so that if any variables are unset, for example, if they're misspelled, then that will be considered an error. So this is what we start with, and we could do a little echo hello world. So do we have a bash script, or sorry, a Posix script? Does it work? So I'm going to go ahead and run it. Hello world. Good. By the way, if I do command-v sh, the canonical place where this lives is actually user bin sh, but there will be a symlink for it. If we look at bin sh, it's a symlink to dash, and if we look at user bin sh, that's a symlink to dash. So I guess if we look at bin dash and user bin dash, oh, interesting. It's actually installed in both places. I was expecting one to be a symlink to the other. So that is the Debian Almquist shell, which is a popular shell. It's used on Alpine and lots of small Linuxes as the Posix compliant shell. Bash also has a Posix compliant shell. So if I run this with bash, it will know to run it in Posix mode because of the header. So the header is not just for the operating system, this shebang header, but it also lets any other shell know, and tools like shell check, to know that this shell is to, or this script is to be interpreted in Posix mode. Now with that in mind, one thing that I'm getting the benefit of, that you should also get the benefit of, is shell check and schwumpt, the shell formatter. So if you do Webby Vim Essentials, you can get your Vim environment set up similar to mine. I'm not going to run that right now. You can also do, so first of all, you need to have at least run Vim Essentials. You need to have at least run Webby once. And then you get the Webby command. Anyway, so say you were to run this, if I were to hit enter, it's already installed. But I can do Webby schwumpt and shell check here. And let me make sure I get the latest version of those. It looks like there's new versions for both of them. That's awesome. So now I have the latest version of schwumpt and the latest version of shell check. So let's go back into here. Okay, and that's going to tell me if I have any errors. So if I do something wrong, see, now it's popping up with errors there. So it says couldn't parse this because I put one type of quote on one side, one type of quote on the other side. That's what's telling me down here at the bottom. Okay, so we've got that. Now let's go log into DuckDNS because we need to do the important thing. We need to get our first box checked. So let me go back to issues here, or I guess I can actually, let's just refresh that. update with token via DuckDNS API. So I'm here at DuckDNS.org. I'm going to sign in with Google. And you are then going to see, let's see, I'm going to sign in with Beyond Code Bootcamp. So now you can see my token. So I will have to rotate this after we're done doing this together. This is my token for DuckDNS. This is what we're going to use to basically as a login for it. Now I'm going to add a subdomain here. I'm going to add Beyond Foo. I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to click Add Domain, but I'm going to pull this to the other screen as to not reveal my IP address because DuckDNS. Whoops. 127.0.0.1. Okay. Let me bring this back up here now. So by default, it shows everything. It doesn't have a no-show mode. It's not really great for screencast for this reason. But now, Beyond Foo is my domain. So if I was to use dig, which is our little tool here, so that's actually one of the things I need to do. So if I use dig plus short, and I give it beyondfoo.duckdns.org, there is the address that it's set to. So this is one of the things, I didn't put this in the checklist, but this is one of the things that we need to do. We need to know my current IP. So we can put in here, we're going to create a subshell. So that starts with a quote, $, and open paren, and then ends with a paren and a quote. And then I'm just going to say echo my current IP. All right. So I'm doing several things here. Let me explain what this is. So dig is a command, plus short is an option, which is kind of weird because normally flags are minus, but in this case, dig uses plus sometimes. And then we're putting in our domain. Now I'm going to go ahead. I know that I want to be able to work with multiple domains. I'm not going to put that in a variable just yet, just to kind of try to keep things simple. So what I'm doing here is I'm assigning the output of this command by putting the command in a subshell. So this $, parentheses, this is what makes a subshell. So basically it's a script inside of a script. Hey, what's up, Funky Waddy? Heyo. This is a subscript, and then we put the quotes around it because if you don't put the quotes around it, sometimes weird things happen. So basically, sometimes it only gets the first line rather than getting the whole block of text. Things can be broken up in strange ways. So almost anytime, unless you know that you don't want this behavior, this is one of those things where I kind of wish the default was the sane behavior and you opted into the behavior that you almost never want because there's just more things that you have to type and stuff you have to put. But you put your subshell in quotes. So I could not have my subshell in quotes. And in this case, I'm not getting any warning messages, which probably means that it doesn't matter in this case, because otherwise shell check would be giving me an error, just like it does if I delete the use of the variable. You can see my current IP, the variable that I'm creating, appears unused. Verify that it's used. So when I do something wrong, shell check. I actually learned a lot of the Posix shell from shell check, and shell check knows to be in Posix mode. Again, if you have this shebang, then when shell check is checking your scripts, it knows to be in Posix mode rather than in bash mode or dash mode or some other mode. Anyway, so assignment of a variable, my current IP equals, and then a subshell. Maybe something that I should have done to make this a little bit simpler off the bat would be if we had done, say we had that hello world, if I had changed that, let's go ahead and I'm just going to show something real quick here. So I'm going to exit 1 because I'm not done with this. So I like to exit 1. That's the error code, is exit 1. Anything that's not 0 is error. So I like to, let me go back and take a look at that. When I have not finished something, but I want to test it, I have it exit with 1. So actually, so yeah, I'm going to run this with sh. It prints out hello world. So now let's say, just to kind of give you an example of how variables work, let's say my name equals world, and then we're going to, so this variable is my name, and then we're going to change world for the variable my name. Oops. So now we have my name equals world, hello, my name. So it's just going to do substitution. Everywhere that there's a $, brackets, and my name, it's going to substitute it with whatever the variable is. So if we run this again, we still see hello world. Oh, I put the exclamation mark in there. That's not what I meant to do. We can put hello AJ. Boom. Hello AJ. Okay. Because I know I'm breezing through stuff, but I want this to be clear even for beginners who aren't familiar with the shell. That's kind of the hope here. Okay. So that's this business with assigning the variable. Whatever the output of this is, which we saw was the IP address, is going to be the output here. So let's go ahead and echo current IP address. So this is just going to, it's going to give us the same thing that this gives us, because we're not doing anything different. So whether we run the command or we echo it out, it's the same. Now let's change that up. Well, we need a way to figure out what our current IP address is. And I think the best way to do that, let's see. I don't think that DuckDNS, oops, has there's the HTTP specification. Yeah, I don't think they tell you a way to know what your IP address is, unfortunately. And this is something that should be a standard in routers, but it isn't. It's kind of weird. So what I've mostly used to figure out what my IP address is IP-ify. I think that's what it was called. IP-ify API. All right. So let me take this down for a second. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to have, this is not actually my current IP, this is the domain IP. And then we're going to add my current IP equals, and we're going to do a similar thing here. And we can just, instead of testing it in the shell, we can test it here. Okay, so I don't know if we want the format to actually be JSON. We'll discover that momentarily. We could also, we're going to need to do this as well. We're going to need to say if not command-v dig, then v Exit 1, and we can say echo command dig not found. Please install netutils. Okay, what package is dig part of? Dig Posix. I think dig is a Posix thing. I'm not sure. Let's see here. Posix command list. We'll try to be as Posixy as we can. I know that curl is not part of the list of commands. What package is dig part of? DNS utils. There we go. Oh, that's what I wanted. Okay. And if curl isn't found, same thing. Command curl not found. Please install curl. There we go. So we're going to do our actually, we should probably, let's just make this a function. So in a function in the Posix shell is a word with parentheses. That's how you define a function. And then an open bracket. So what we can do is I'm going to have another thing called main here. So we're going to have a function called depcheck and a function called, actually we'll call this one update IP, and then we'll create another function called main, and main will run depcheck and then it will run update IP. So this is what functions look like. So this is my domain IP and this one is my current IP. Also, I have to double check on this. We actually want to distinguish between IPv4 and IPv6. So an IPv4 address is also known as an A record. So we can do dig plus short A and then our domain. And an IPv6 is also known as a quad A record. And so now, instead of saying give me whatever record you find at this domain, we can say specifically, give me the IPv4 address and give me the IPv6 address, and they may be empty. All right. Okay. So we got dig, we got curl, we have the current IP, so IPv4, and then we need to have also my current IPv6. Okay, question. Can you bypass the variables and just echo the subshell? Well, the purpose is not to output the command. So what we could do is we could just put the command, right? So if all I wanted to do was output to the screen, then I can just put the command itself. So let me go ahead and show this. So I can put dig plus short a beyond foo.duckdns.org. Let me go ahead and do the little boilerplate bits here. Okay. And then I can do quad A on this. So we can go ahead and run that. And then it outputs without having to do anything. Now I could say echo done. I want you to notice this. If I echo done, oh, it actually does go all the way through. Okay. Yeah, let's... I was thinking that because there is no quad A record, that would be considered a failure, but apparently it isn't, and that's good. So we can run the commands directly and we don't have to echo them, but the goal isn't to echo them. The goal is to be able to compare them. So we need to be able to get what does it currently think the domain is, and or what IP address is currently assigned to the domain, and then we need what IP address do I currently have. So those are the two pieces of information that we're trying to get here. So when I run this script, which I'll go ahead and run it now, I should get... Oh, and actually, sorry. I'm going to test something real quick. Should exit. If I do return 1 from a function, I don't need to do exit if it's in a function. If I do return 1 from a function, that should cause it to exit. So it should do this dep check, and I'm just... Red, green, refactor is the terminology. We want to test that things fail. So red, we want to test the failure case. Does it fail? Okay. So it did... No, nothing ever ran. There we go. Now I can run main. I don't think we'll actually do that at the end. Okay, so it finds where dig is, it finds where curl is, and it says it should exit. Great. Okay, so let me take a look at this. And then... We're done here. Okay, now that didn't actually work the way that I wanted it to. Because I didn't want this to print out to the console. So let me just make that quiet. I'm interested in the status of Command V. I'm not interested in the output of Command V. I should also test this. I should also test something I know doesn't exist on my system. Let's call it blarg. Guzz. So let me go ahead and test this. Good, fail. Excellent. All right, so this is working the way that I intended and expected. So these commands should not print out what they are, but if there is a command that isn't there, it actually does fail. Return 0 with set-e means that if the function runs and it returns, return 1. If it returns non-zero, it's a failure, it fails. Okay, so we got that part running. Let's get the next part running here. And I'm going to just prefix these with A, quad A, IPv4, IPv6. Okay, that's not what I expected. So we need curl to be in quiet mode. So let's put -S for silent. This is what we need. We need S for silent, big S for not silent on error, and F for fail, and then we'll put in the L for follow location redirect. So this is kind of the most common way to use curl in a script, is fail on error, silent for non-error, not silent for error, and follow redirects. That's what all that stuff means there. So let's get out of here and run this again. There we go. So we can see a quad A, IPv4, IPv6. I don't think I actually want JSON for this though, because I don't want to have to find some clever way to parse that. So let me see if we can just do format equals, I don't know what the other options are for ipfi.org. Let me see if I can find out. I'm going to click the API usage page. Let's go here. Format JSON P. Okay, so I wonder if I can, I would like to say explicitly. Okay. Text. I want to see what happens if I just pass text as a parameter. If I just put format equals text. Because if that's allowed, that's what I want to do. Just because it's more clear. Yeah, that looks like it works. I'm imagining that I could probably put anything here, say snarfblat, and it might work. Anything, yeah. So anything that isn't JSON, it just treats as text. It doesn't error. It would be nice if it did error, if it's something it doesn't recognize, but whatever. Oh, yeah, there's not a difference between IPv4 and IPv6. That's something that we have to check for. So I'm glad you brought that up. So let me go ahead and move this around here. So if, and it's important, for Posix Shells, you use a single bracket. The single bracket is actually a command. So just like here, I have the word command, and command actually is a command. The command is the command that tells you where a command is located. So the square bracket is actually a command, and that command has certain options. So in the same way that the command dig has options like plus short and quad A and A, the command open square bracket has certain options, and it must end in a closing square bracket. So the name of the command is actually test. So, and I'll demonstrate this in a bit. So let's say we want to test if these two things are the same. We want to test if IPv4 is the same as IPv6, then we want to empty IPv6. And this will give us the correct results. So let me go ahead and run that. Oh. Why did this not work? Oh, whoops. Single, it's single equals, not a double equals. I should have paid attention to my linter, because when I did it wrong, I got an error marker over here, and it says, in Posix Shell, double equals is not defined. So we don't want to use a double equals. It's a single equals. That's how it's supposed to be in the Posix Shell. Okay, so if I run this, now we see the outputs. So here's the current IP for the domain. There's the A record and the quad A record. Here's my IPv4. Here's my IPv6. So the reason we have to do that is that it has to do, they have a kind of a blog post on it. So basically the way that AWS is set up, I guess you can't have an IPv6 address only or something, that, or maybe it's not AWS, I don't know. But whatever service IPify is using, it, for whatever reason, the platform they're using, maybe it was Heroku, it doesn't allow them to have an IPv6 only. And so I don't know why they ended up doing it the way that they did. It seems like I don't know. I don't remember. I remember reading a blog post on it, and there was an open issue or bug somewhere about it, but it is what it is. And so we can just check to see if IPv4 is the same as IPv6, then we blank out IPv6. Yeah, so this is the... oh, whoops. Thank you. Thank you for catching that. That is the subdomain that I intended to use. But so let's see. We might actually get the IPv6 address this time. No, we don't. So it's still the same behavior, because the IPv6.4 domain gives us back the IPv4 address, and there is no API 6 only domain. So thanks for catching that. Good eye. Okay. So I wanted to talk about the test command. If we get rid of these brackets, I can run instead test. And test does not have the same types of arguments and flags that normal commands do. It is meant to be aliased to the square bracket, which when test is aliased to the square bracket, then if there's not a closing bracket, it's an error. So we can do this. We can do test. And this is exactly the same thing. So I run it. I get exactly the same results. It does everything the same. Now, if I run it as a square bracket, you might think this is a syntax error. It is not a syntax error. It shows up as a syntax error because of the way that the script checker has been written. The script checker has been written to parse this. Sorry. The script checker was probably originally written just for Bash, and then later was adapted to the Posix shell, because the Posix shell is kind of the replacement for Bash. In scripts, at least. If you're writing scripts, you should be writing scripts to the Posix shell. As for interactivity, Fish has replaced Bash as an interactive shell, and the Posix shell has replaced Bash for scripting. So Bash is obsolete in the sense that no matter what you're trying to do, there is a shell that is the better shell to use. And some people prefer ZSH over Fish because ZSH is a Posix shell. I do not, because I think that if you're going to have an interactive shell for your command line, you want to get the best one that there is. And Posix compliance is not part of that. Anyway, so to demonstrate this point, I'm going to run this. And if this is truly running in Posix mode, the dash shell, the -enquist shell, then we should not get a syntax error. We should get a command has incorrect number of arguments error. Ah, see? See? So what it did here is kind of off-spec behavior. It ran it anyway. So the Debian... Oh, sorry for all the yawning. I don't know where that's coming from. The DuckDNS.sh shell, when it runs the test command as the alias open bracket, it outputs a warning. It doesn't even error. It just outputs a warning saying it's missing, excuse me, the closing bracket. So that is important. It's an important distinction that in Bash, that would be a syntax error. But in the Posix shell, it is a command error because bracket is a command. And this is what I was saying. The Posix shell is much simpler because it has less syntax. It has fewer cases that it has to handle. Because if is always followed by a command no matter what, there is no special syntax for if. It's simply if and a command. And the command is either going to return 0 for truthy or non-zero for falsy. And that is that. So anyway, but we like the look of this, so this is how we do it. Okay, so that bit's done. So let's go ahead and I'm going to go ahead and make a whip commit for this. So let's do a couple of things here. One, docs. Let's see. What should I call this? Maybe I won't do this right now, because I don't know what the usage of the command is actually going to be, so I don't want to say docs show usage. But here's what I want to do. We can say here's a feature, show current domain records A and quad A records. We could actually break this down. Let's see, domain A and quad A and current IPv4 and IPv6. There we go. So we can check one item off of our roadmap. Check the current IP address. That one is done. And I can put in here via what commit. So I'm going to go back here and of our so few commits, there we go. Now let's go ahead and we kind of did accomplish the store last known IP, but not by caching it locally, which is what I thought we were going to do, but by using dig via IPify in. All right, and then this one I'm going to say via dig. There we go. Okay, now it's time to actually update the token. And I said that we would do this first. That is the core value of what we're building, is to have the IP address update. But the thing is, because if the IP address, we're going to get one verification that the IP address has or hasn't changed. And then it's going to be a manual step going into the web page to reset the IP address to something else. So I wanted to get these parts done first, because one, they're actually what needs to happen first, even though they're not what the core value is. And then I will know immediately when it worked. So let's go ahead and get some output in here to show that IP address is updating. So we're new, similar to this one right here. we're going to do if my domain IPv4 is equal to this, then let's see, how do I want to do this? Echo, no, IPv4 change. Else IPv4 has changed. And then I want to do something similar with the IPv6. So let's go ahead and do that. And I will, sorry, I was not checking the comments. Let me do that. I actually might want to call it domain A and domain quad A. Okay. I'm glad that you run fish. That is excellent. So it continued the execution after the if, since it didn't know where the closing square bracket was supposed to be, but it knew it wouldn't be after the fee, so it continued after that. No, that is not what happened. This is not syntax. It ran the command, open bracket, which is also known as test, and the command received this argument, and this argument, and this argument, so 3 arguments, and it expected to receive the final argument as the closing bracket. So this is a command. This square bracket is a command. It's a command just like echo or dig or curl. And if we want to be super technical, it's not specified whether it's implemented as a command or as a function. In this implementation, I believe that it's actually a function. So it's a function called test and a function aliased as open square bracket. But commands and functions are the same for all purposes of when you call them or run them. So this and this are the same. This is me running test as test, and it receives 1, 2, 3 arguments. This is me running test as open bracket, and it receives 1, 2, 3 arguments. And this is me running test as the open bracket alias, and it receives 1, 2, 3, 4 arguments. So it's not that it encounters, that the shell is not encountering an error per se. By definitionally, depending on whether or not you want to count built-in functions as the shell, then you could make the argument that the shell is the one giving the error, but it's not a parse error. It is an argument error, and it's different. So if I did if x, that is a parse error. That is an actual, that's an actual parse error. There is no command if x. So it's, what it's doing in this case is it's going to try to call a command if x, which there is no such command. That's not where the error is. Then it's going to pass that command 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 arguments, and that whole thing is going to fail. And then it comes into the keyword then, which is a reserved word. There, you cannot have a command named then. Let's see. expected. No, wait. I might be wrong about what you might be able to have a command name then. Anyway, there's a syntax error here, and it's expecting this function to end, and I'm not entirely sure why that is. But this is an actual syntax error, as opposed to this is not a syntax error, it's an argument error. And it even says here, could not parse this test expression because it is an expression for the test command. It's just a set of arguments. Okay. So now we can put this out. And no IPv6 change. Oh, another thing I forgot to do here, which I probably should do, and I'll just double check this. When you do a function in the Posix shell, you should have a subshell, which is just the open parentheses. And I'll go into why in just a second, but I do want to make sure that I'm right about that before I continue on. So, blah. So what should happen, well, I don't know what should happen. What should happen is what will happen. But what I'm hoping happens is that this still fails. Okay, good. It still does. Good. So the subshell returning error causes the function to return error as well. That's good. Even though it doesn't have a return there. Okay. So the reason for this is functions in the Posix shell do not have scope, but if you create a subshell for them, then they have scope the same that JavaScript has scope, where the scope is to the function. In truth, the scope is to the subshell, but it's indistinguishable from being local scope. So the Posix shell does not have local variables, it just has subshells. So anytime you want a local variable, you just do a subshell. And so as a matter of being safe and strict, it would be a good habit to just always use subshells. Because then you'll never have variable pollution by mistake. Because for if you come from any other language, you are probably, except for C, but any of the modern languages, you're used to functions having scope. And I think even in C, functions have scope. So just having a habit of doing this, and then you can turn it off when you need to. But just having a habit of doing this is good, because then your variables are all local variables to the function. And if you want something to not be local, then the way to return it is actually with echo. So return is just for exit code. So you can return either 0 or more than 0. Those are your options for return. But when you echo, so that you return a status and you echo a result. Or you don't have to echo it, you can just let it do its thing. Anyway, now that I've changed that, let me go ahead and... Okay, so now we can detect if the IP address has changed or not. So now we're getting to the point where we need our token. Now, I'm trying to think of how I want to do this, because we need to ask for the token, actually. we don't want to store my token in this file. So what we're going to need to do is right here, we should probably let's make another function. We're going to make a function that is set IPv4. Oops. And I'm just going to call set IPv4. Oops, no, over here. And we can pass to this one my current IP address. So to receive this, usually when you want to receive something in a function, and this is true across many shells, or across programming languages is what I mean to say, but this exception is common to many shells. So you would expect that you could do something like my current IPv4, and this would be, you're passing in this value here, so you'd receive the value in the parentheses. I don't know why they went with the parentheses idea for the definition of function. It seems like they should have just called it function. But anyway, that's not how it works. What you do instead is it ends up being you have a list where 0 is the name of the function, and then the first argument is 1, second argument is 2, and so on. So what we'd actually have here, this is how we would pass the variable. Just like that. And then we'll create another function that's set IPv4 or set IPv6 that functions similarly. So here's IPv6. IPv6 is changed to IPv6. And then let's go back up here. And we're going to pass this through. All right, so now the behavior hasn't changed much, but we've created some functions for setting this. Let me go ahead and run that just to see that it works. Oh, that's weird. IPv6, no IPv6 change. Okay, got it. All right, that makes sense. So we don't call set on that. Okay, so the next thing that we need to do, I'm actually going to set the IPv6 address over here in DuckDNS. Can I set that to, was it 1 or 0? I forget. Oh, it looks like I have been logged out. It was idle for too long. Let's come back. All right, cool. So there we are. My IPv6 address of 1. So now when I run this, it's going to tell me that both are different. So, wait, no IPv6 change. What? It'll probably take a minute or two, because the time between when dig knows that when the IP address records have changed. Let me think about this. So I think we're going to need a third mechanism so that we don't run into this use case. Maybe it doesn't matter. I'll have to note that for later. Let me just put this in here. Let's see. Possibly store last known local IP address. To-dos. All right. So we need a way basically to ask for this token so that we can construct the request to DuckDNS. Because those didn't require authentication, but this one does. Clear equals. Okay, domains. Okay. Interesting. Okay, so if here's something I didn't realize before. If we want to update an address to be empty, we have to first specify clear and then run the other changes. So that'll be interesting how we accomplish that. Well, let's take a look at the top example that they gave here. Interesting. So this let's see. So we're going to need to know what the domain is. That's probably something that we're going to define at the highest level. Let me think about that. How are we going to know what the domain is? So let's say my domain equals say if it is zero length or non-zero length. So we're going to test for if zero length, my domain, then exit 1, and we'll say usage DuckDNS.sh subdomain. Let's say my subdomain. Okay, so that's how we'll get my subdomain. We may not be able to finish this all in one sitting here. So domains equals my subdomain, and token equals my token. So I don't know, I'll have to figure out how we're going to get the token. And IP equals I don't know if we're going to be efficient and have the IPv6. So I'm going to say clear IPs. And this one we're not going to have the IPv6 value. I could potentially just have some way of setting it for both. So for example, we could have both of them. And we could say if not empty, IPv4 well, really, it would be if not empty, my IPv6, and then if not empty, my IPv4, and my IPv4 param. Let's see. We just have this be empty. My IPv6 param could be empty. And then if we have an IPv6 and an IPv4, then my IPv4 param is IP equals and, or I guess it would be and IP equals, and then my IPv6 param would be IPv6 equals 6, else if we don't have an IPv4, then IP would just be IPv6. And else if, I mean, it's not possible to not have not 0 length, then okay, and then this one, what we'd want to do is put debug output here. I'm trying to remember, is this how it goes? Something like that. But error output. Dash error standard error echo. This one. Okay. Now echo. Set. Alright. Update DuckDNS. I think I'm going to change the name of this function. Must have at least one of IPv4 or IPv6 addresses specified. Okay. So I'm going to change the name of this from set IPv6 to update DuckDNS. Probably should call it DuckDNS update. That would be a better name for it. Because we're going to have DuckDNS update and DuckDNS clear. Okay, and then I'm just going to put echo in front of this, and we should be able to see what it turns out to be. So what we should have here, we've got a my IPv4 param and a my IPv6 param, and those are strings that contain the appropriate bits. We could probably, for the sake of readability, I think we'd move this to here. I think that makes it a little easier to read. So this may be an empty string, or this may be an empty string. Okay, and then we don't have a set IPv6 at all. So then what we have is DuckDNS clear. And DuckDNS set. Or update. And then we need to have some sort of figuring out when to run both. So I think what we do for this is probably pretty similar. We probably say inside of here, make another condition. So we say if IPv4 changed and IPv6 changed, then run the update with both. Otherwise, run the update with just the one. Otherwise, if IPv6 changed, then run the update with just IPv6. So this would be no IPv6 change, no IPv4 change, and then this would be no IPv6 or no IPv4 or IPv6 change. So now we've gone through all possible conditions here of how that thing might be called, but we also need some way to know. So if there was a change and the change is that it's empty, we have to first clear and then we have to set both. That gets kind of complicated. I don't want to deal with that right now, but I'm gonna put a little stub here in the code to do clear if one is empty. So actually, maybe I will handle this right here. So we could do if 0 length string my current IPv4, then DuckDNS clear DuckDNS update. Oops, clear update. Okay. And I guess we could test if both are currently empty. That's not possible. We can't connect to the internet if both are empty. So that's just not that's just an impossible condition. So no. At least the IPv4 or IPv6, at least one of the IPv4 or IPv6 must exist. Otherwise, we wouldn't be able to get an IP address. We wouldn't be able to get an empty response. Wouldn't even be able to get an empty response. Okay. So this is a little bit complicated. Or if not complicated, at least complex. But this is going to be similar. Okay, let me... Oh, I think I need to switch these to not equal so that it is representing change. Yeah, so we want to look at... Let's see. We want to look at change, I think. Okay, yeah, I was building this out wrong. So these should actually be not equal for the way that I was thinking about them. So I should say, this is what I should do. My change IPv4 is equal to, and then we could do a subshell, and this is so funny because this is valid. Because the bracket is a command. Now, it might be nicer in terms of readability to put it this way. Then we could say if my change IPv4 let's see. Oh, that's not quite right. Because that's not going to give us a status code. How do I check the status code? Let me go back here. Let me go back to this. Alright, so if IPv4 changed, if the IPv4 is empty, then clear it out. And then update with the IPv6. Otherwise, if the IPv6 changed, update both. Ah, this is tricksy too. Because then we have to say if IPv6 is 0, then we have to run clear and update with just the 1. Oops. Which would be the IP4. By the way, it's important that we have the double quotes because this establishes that there is a second argument. It's just an empty string, as opposed to there not being a second argument. Okay. And then, yeah, I don't like the way that this is turning out to look. Because basically what we need to know is if there's a change and one of them clears, then we need to clear. I kind of want to handle that separately. I think if I were to take this okay, so I'm going to say if they're not the same, and I need to clear it. If these aren't the same, and I need to clear it. Oh. Ah, yes, this is making more sense. Because then what I have to say is that both this one and this one. Okay, I made a grave mistake here. I don't know exactly what I did, but I broke something pretty bad. Cannot find fee for this if. Right, because I didn't put in a fee for that if. There we go. All right, so I'm cleaning this up to say this. If there was a change, and the change is that the IPv4 is no longer valid, clear the DuckDNS, and then we need to update the state of the domain to be clear as well. That makes sense. We're going to repeat this, but we're going to change it out to be IPv6. So all of this right here should be IPv4, should be changed to IPv6. Okay. If either domain, or if either IP changed to be empty, clear both. And that, anytime there's a comment like that, it's an indicator it probably should go in a function. But in this case, because of the variable scoping, you can only return one thing from a bash function. I kind of want to just leave the comment there. All right. Okay. We're getting close here. So the either IP change to be empty, clear both. And then we're going to repeat this logic. Kind of, sort of. I'm gonna restart most of this. I'm gonna get rid of the logic that we had before. I'm just gonna clear it all out because I don't trust it. Okay, so we're gonna start with this, but now at this point we know that because we set the domain to be empty, if when we did the DNS clear here, we also here set, hey, thanks for the follow, Zanzanga. So if the current IPv6 is empty, we've set my domain IPv6 to empty, we did the clear and we set it to empty. Now, whereas in this part they were not equal because my current IPv6 was empty and the domain IPv6 was not empty, in the next part they will be the same. So we've already handled that condition completely, and that's pretty clean, and I hope that's way easier to understand than what it looked like before. Now we're going to take this bit and do pretty much the same thing. So here I'm going to say if the IPv4 address changed, if the, now I need to get rid of all of this. Oops. I'm just going to put an echo in there so that there's a statement, so that there's not a syntax error, because syntax actually does require a non-empty statement. Okay, so if IPv4 changed, and if the IPv6 is, I think we should put if the IPv6 also changed, so that would be this one down here. That's what we should do. Then we're going to call DuckDNS update, and then we're going to have both of these, IPv4 and IPv6. Otherwise, we're only going to have IPv4 update. Okay, else not sure if it should be an else. Yeah, I think so. Syntactically, you'd say, oh, well, this should be an elif. But from the perspective of the logic here, these two blocks of logic are at the same level. So, or that are about to be. Let me actually finish out the logic and then I'll show what I mean. So the only one left is going to be the condition where only one is updated. Ah, so much cleaner, so much easier to reason about. So the first one was complicated because I was trying to handle too many conditions simultaneously, all the permutations. This one, I set up one set of conditions for clearing, I set up the other set of conditions for updating, much easier. And now you can see all of the updates are indented at the same level. So syntactically, you could say, well, this is better because syntactically, I'm saying if IPv4 didn't change, or if IPv4 changed, blah, 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 else if IPv6 changed, blah. But I prefer to think of it logically rather than syntactically. Logically, we have the IPv4 change, and if IPv4 didn't change, if IPv4 was the same, then if IPv6 changed, do the thing. And then we have all of our updates are at the same level, and I consider that to be good. Because it's I'm having a hard time articulating it, but the levels of logic are in the right places. Okay. There we go. Okay, so now then this might need a similar cleanup. I think this one, let's see. Yeah, I think this one could use a similar cleanup here. We do else, if, else. Yeah, like that. So then we have all of our assignments are at the same level. And that's just kind of a sanity check, because that can't happen. Okay, see, just putting the indents at the same level make it feel a little less complicated. That, yeah. Okay, so now what we're gonna do is we need to have a dummy token here. So I'm just gonna put my token equals no token. And I have our curl command for DuckDNS is constructed here, and we're going to run echo on that, and then also here, and we'll run echo on that. So we'll get to see what the output of the commands actually is. And we're probably at a point where, well, I think it still makes sense to have these out there as kind of debugs, and then that's out as debugs. Okay, so now if we run this, good. We get a subdomain. So the subdomain that I wanted was what? Beyond foo? All right. So now we need to have an A record, quad A record, IPv4, IPv6, but this is empty. And so what we should see is that the clear is executed. And we see that the clear is scheduled to be executed. And then we should see an update of just the IPv4. And that's what we see here. So to unit test this to get through all the possible cases would be a little bit challenging. Because it's a script. It's not programming. It's a little bit more difficult to, if you want to functionatize it, but I guess we could. As part of, we could export some functions to make it testable. All right, and this should not be update IP, but this should be, because it might update the IP or it might not. I don't know what we should call that. And it would be IPs, not just IP. So we put the S on there. Oops. All right. Now with that out of the way, we're finally ready to figure out this bit about the token. And I think we'll put a pause point there, and then I want this to have what I have in the README. I want it to have some sort of mechanism to be able to have subcommands and then switch on what it's going to do. But I'm not going to do that tonight because I'm getting kind of tired. So we're just going to put in the mechanism by which we have this token, and then we're going to move on for the night. So this is what I'm going to say. We have the subdomain. What we're going to do is test if the path for config DuckDNS.org / and maybe we should call it DuckDNS.sh, since that's what our repository is called. And then we would have my subdomain. And then we could do .env maybe. I think that's the way I want to do it. And actually I think we want if not. Or we could put the if on the... I think we put the thing on the outside. Then we're going to exit 1. And I'm going to echo missing. I think that's how I've got it set up for myself. Let me check and see. I also need to make sure I take this thing out of temp. Let me do that right now before we do anything else. So sometimes I put a project in temp. There was once I put something in temp and I forgot to take it out and it was lost. Thankfully I had it saved elsewhere. So we're just going to move that to my home directory here. Let's go back into that. I don't know why I put it in temp in the first place. Please don't ever do that. Okay, yeah. So I do have it in env format. So what we'll do... in most shells it's called source, but in Posix Shells it is dot. Dot will read in environment variables. So actually we need to do this way. So if -z, and we're going to do, so I'm going to have my token is equal to, and then we're going to do DuckDNS token, and then we put this colon hyphen means this combination means read the variable, and then if the variable is not defined or is false or doesn't exist, if it's falsy or nullish or undefined-ish, then use whatever comes after as the default value. So for example, I could put beyond foo here. And that would make it acceptable that if this isn't defined, it doesn't trigger the undefined variable condition. But we actually just want it to be an empty string because we want to be able to test it still. Let me just make that syntactically correct for a second. Okay, so if zero length my token, then we need to check, whoops, for, yeah. Oops, what did I do? Oh, forgot the then here. There we go. All right, what is it complaining about? Subdomain? Yes, subdomain. It's telling me I typoed. Did you see that down there? Did you see down here where it's saying, my subdomain is referenced, blah, 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 blah. Did you mean my subdomain? This is why we have tools. You are no better than your tools because you as a human fail. It's plain and simple. There's nothing to be ashamed of about it. Alrighty. Else. I don't know why I got rid of that thing just to put it back there. Okay, and again, in this particular case, well, no, I actually prefer the other way. That's the way that it ought to be. Whoops. Oh no. There we are. That would be what we call an early return, and that is correct. Okay, and then subdomain. So we're going to check to see if it exists. If it doesn't, we're going to give an error. Let's see. I don't know if I do want to read this from the environment or not. I have to think about that. Oh, whoops. That should have that colon hyphen. What was this complaining about? Oh. I need to disable this. Shell check. Can't follow. This is something we need in our cheat sheet here. Both a list of codes. Actually, I've got this in the webinstall.dev cheat sheet for shell check. So if you go to webinstall.dev, shell check shows you how to install it. And it also shows you how to disable code. So shell check disable equals. So let me go ahead and throw in the code there. And I should probably show how to disable multiple. I think you just have to put multiple in a row, if I remember correctly. So what we're going to do is say, look, I know that you don't like the way that I did this, but just deal with it. I do want to go back and read this. Can't follow. Use a directory to specify a location. Sources. Source util.sh. Util path. Shell check is not able to blah 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 blah. This will not be read, potentially reloading warnings. Use a directive, point to a fixed location it can read instead. Okay. Oh, interesting. So that's a better way to do it rather than disabling it. Good to know. In our particular case, I think what we could do is instead do source equals /example.env. So example.env, and then we should have DuckDNS token equals, and then let me see. I don't want to commit my token. That's not what I'm trying to do here. But I just want to get the format of the token. I like my examples to be as close to the real deal as possible. So I'm going to put all X is here, and then X is here, and then this is actually 4, and this one is 8 or higher. I just happen to know this about the way this is formatted. So let me go back to put those as X's. I just like to note for UUIDs, this half of a byte right here is predefined. You do not get to define that half of a byte. And then also here, this 1 bit. So there are a total of 5 bits in a UUID that are not random. The 4 and then the 8. So anything less than an 8, anything that would have been less than an 8 is an 8. But something that's greater than an 8 can be whatever it is. So this can be 8, 9, A, so on. A through F. But it cannot be lower than can't be lower than 8. I just happen to know that. Okay, we get rid of that. And then let's see here. And yeah, I wish that shell check was a little bit better about the .env files, because it should know that they are exported. Because it's sourced. So if we, for example, all right, so if we do beyond foo here, it's going to say, hey, it's missing this. So what we could do is we can create this directory, DuckDNS.sh, and then we can copy, what is it? RPP, I think is what we have to use. So if you're doing Posix, you do not have -a actually. It is capital R, lowercase p, uppercase p. Alright, config DuckDNS. Alright. So if we run this one, whoops, that's not what I meant to do. If we run this one, it's going to give us an error, but if we run example, it'll actually go through, and then, oh, our token is no token, because it's not, we haven't actually updated this to read the token, we just, let's see. Actually, I think we'll do this. Wait. Not following. Example.env is not specified as input. What? I'm a little confused by this. shell check. Let me see what this is about. Oh, did it give me the error code? It gave me the error code. I should just go back and check the error code here. Okay. Oh, following other files. Got it. In case you do not have access. Alright, so I'm a little bit confused here because I thought we have example.env. Yeah, we do. So if I tell it example.env, well, we'll just go to dev null. And then it won't complain. That's good enough for me. I'm not quite sure the difference between ignoring the error and setting source equals dev null. I feel like throwing a shell check disable equals is probably more clear than putting source equals dev null. I'm not sure. Because I think that gives you something that is more Googleable. Alright, I'm so confused here. Shell check can't follow non... Oh, this is what we had before. Non-constant source. So, I think we just... There we go. We just disable that. I think that's the most clear way to handle it. Y'all let me know what you think. Okay. So now that we've got that done, and I think instead of doing the myToken route... Wait. Am I putting these in there and it's stripping them out? It is stripping them out. Interesting. So for whatever reason, it thinks that it's redundant to have the colon in those scenarios, which is fine by me. myToken. We're going to get rid of that. Instead, we're just going to have DuckDNS. Well, maybe we won't. I like to reference globals in as few places as possible, although I guess that might be kind of a useless indirection to do it that way. Let me go back. myToken. Alright, so we're going to use DuckDNS token. Rule of thumb, you might notice I'm prefixing all of the variables in the script with my. That's just a signal to me that I know that I'm not exporting that. And when it's all caps, then I know it's a variable. And I know I'm not exporting it. Because there's a difference between it and your shell scripts, your functions and your variables have similar names. I just like to put the my in front of it just to be clear that it's a variable and to be clear that it's local. But things that are in all caps, those are things that are variables of the environment, not just of the script. That's the purpose for that. Okay, so here we go. And look at that. There's our token. Cool. So I think at this point, if I were to go and set this, well, I do need to still have that no change. Do I have a no change? Let me go in here. Let's see. Okay. Let me get rid of this. Let me get rid of some of these things here. Get rid of this. That actually will come in handy. Just bookmark that for later. Oh. Okay, so we're going to take this token. And I'm going to go into config DuckDNS.sh and then beyond foo.env DuckDNS token equals and paste that in. And now we're going to run this for real for the first time. So let me go and run beyond foo. And these are the IP addresses that were detected. Both of them are localhost, or that were set. These are the ones that are detected. And these are the curl commands that would run but didn't actually run. So let's change this to actually run the curl commands. So we'll get rid of that echo, and we will get rid of this echo, and now it will actually run the commands. Let's see here. IPv4 and IPv6, updating IPv6, updating IPv4. I just want to get that output. Echo. And actually what we want here is a printf. So echo has no arguments in the Posix shell. So if you want to print without a new line at the end, then you do printf instead. So I'm going... So I don't want to print the new line, because what I want to have happen is it to print out updating ... and then to print out done once it's done. So there we go, done. Let's put an exclamation for good measure. All right, and I see there's some comments coming in. I'll check on those in just a second. All right, let's say we do not short. What does this look like? This is the output of dig when we don't use short. Very verbose. Very technical. Okay. I was just thinking maybe I want this to kind of look like that. Maybe I want it to look like echo. And then subdomain. DuckDNS.org. And then quad A. Okay, here we go. And then I have that debug, no update. No change detected. Okay, so now if I run this, ooh, I made the misspelling of subdomain again for the 15th time. Okay, I should have caught that when I saved and the little error bob came up here. Okay, let's watch it go. Interesting. So I think I actually want to turn verbose off. Let's see what happens when we run it again, though. Oh, it's going to take a while for up to 5 minutes for the change to take place. All right. So I actually want the verbose to go away. So we are going to. Oh, thanks for that follow, Sanjay. We are going to need. Oops. To store the IP change locally with the timestamp or something. Actually, we can probably use the timestamp of the file as the timestamp. The date method has a way to work with file dates, which is pretty neat. We will need to have... I forget the way that you're supposed to do here docs in shell scripts. I need to look that up. IP, but I want to put this here. IPify, and then I'll look at the comments. IPify docs. DuckDNS. API docs. Is it spec.html or something like that? /spec. Spec.jsp. Seriously? Matt? I love this. That's great. Okay, spec.jsp. And, oops. Okay, I am going to do one more thing. Let's see. Create a header for bash scripts. I think I've seen better than this. But I want something kind of like this, but probably not this. Header doc, what does it look like? Let's see. Bash header doc. Okay, let me get back over here. So, welcome back, Angular developer. Apparently I should have a commands command. Maybe that's a little too... It's a little too Java docky. That's a little too meta-y. I don't know. I'll have to find out something that I like. I took a look at the Tom doc. That looks pretty reasonable. Could have sworn I've seen something. I think I've even used something that's pretty simple and sweet for this. But now I don't know what it is. Oh well. Alright, let's try running this again. And I'm suspecting that this time it will get the correct records. Yeah, no change detected. There we go. That's great. And we can go back and I can set one or the other. So if we write this well, then we should be able to test it. We should be able to source it, take a particular function, and, well, couldn't quite source it because it has some top level stuff that has to run, but I wonder, oops. How to determine if bash script is sourced. And I say bash because you find more search results there, but it's, yeah. Yeah, reasonably robust compliant, Posix compliant. No robust way to determine if a script is being sourced. There we go. Okay. Well, anyway, so that's I'm gonna leave those things alone for now. I'm gonna leave this open for later. We're gonna go ahead. Let me refresh this. I might have to log in again. Yeah, I gotta log in again. Login doesn't last very long. So we're gonna log in again. And then I'm going to change the IP address back to 127.0.0.1. And back to, well, here we can just leave it empty. So let's see what this looks like when we do this. Okay, 127.0, whoops, .0.0.1. Okay. So this time there's not going to be any clearing, so we should just see one curl result. So instead of updating IPv4, okay. And then, so before we saw a clearing, well, there was this okay and this updated, but I didn't have a clearing. I didn't have the clearing IP addresses. All right, so we don't need. So this prints out okay. So we don't need the done at the end. But we do need the new line. So server will respond with okay. We just need the new line. But we still need a new line. There we go. And then we probably want to do something similar with this one right here. Unsetting IP addresses. All right, so let's go back. If we refresh here, nope, I don't want to do that. There's the updated IP address, and then I'm going to put this one. And then it's going to, we should see unsetting IP addresses, and then we should see it set both of the IP addresses. That's what should happen with this. We probably have to wait about 60 seconds for that to take effect. But I would say at this point, we have something working. And it works in these various permutations. I just want to test it, then I'm going to commit it, then I'm going to go sleep. But we'll pick up, I think, tomorrow, and we'll do the loop. Or maybe I'll do the loop now, because the loop doesn't take too much time. Famous last words. But I did want to show you how to do some math in the Posix shell. So once it's been about a minute. Okay. What are the things? So subdomain's not going to change between iterations of the loop. So this is all stuff that's kind of init-y stuff. Update IPs, that's what we want to have in the loop. So let's do this. We're going to say my weight equals, and here's how you do math. You have to do, it looks like a subshell, but you're actually, and I don't remember, I think we are supposed to put quotes around this. Maybe we're not. We will find, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do exit 1. I'm going to do my weight. So we could say 5 times 60, and that would be 5 minutes. waiting. I do my minutes equals 5. To try again. And then I think we need to put spaces on either side. I think that's required. And I think I don't know if we can use the brackets. I think we use the brackets. Sleep. My weight. There we go. So let's see what this looks like now. Waiting 5 minutes to try again. Cool. Let me make sure that it actually did the math. Okay, no, it didn't do the math. So we don't use the quotes. Sorry. Because it's not a subshell. Oh, and because it's doing math, we actually don't put the $sign. Oops, if I remember correctly. Let me see. Am I doing this right? I'm doing something wrong here. Do I need to put the $sign? Did you forget to close this double quoted string? Alright, let's try it like that. Okay, there we go. So we do need to put the $sign. And then we can double quote it. Okay, so this is how you do math. And so the rules are a little bit different because you don't put the $sign in front of the variables. But $sign, then double bracket. This is syntax for doing arithmetic. Okay, so we will do this in a loop. So we'll say while true, do, done. So we're gonna wait to try again. We're gonna start with doing what we need to do. We're gonna wait to try again, and then we'll sleep for the wait time in seconds. And then when the seconds are reached, we'll try again. So what I would actually say here is that we want to try really, really fast. So we want to wait basically 1/60th of a minute. Well, maybe a little bit more than that. So we want to do maybe 5 times 60. Wait, no. Order of operations. 1 divided by, let's say, 15? Or, wait, what do I want to do here? We don't want it to wait a second, half of a second, quarter of a second, an eighth of a second. We'll just go with a tenth of a second. 6 seconds. That's good enough. We'll do that. Let me make sure that this is right. Oh, illegal number. Ooh. So, what we'll do in this case, oops, is we'll just turn wait into 5. So then we'll have it try again. So we're lying about the minutes here. It's going to be seconds instead of minutes. That way we don't have to sit here very long. Alright, there we go. So it's updating. And it says, no change detected. Waiting 5 minutes to try again. And it just waited 5 seconds. Interesting. Okay, so something's going wrong here. Here, it said no change detected, and that makes sense. And then here... Okay, so I think what we're getting is we happened to get a cached record that had nothing there the first time, and then we got my updated record. So let's see how that played out. So unsetting IP addresses and then updating IPv4. That makes sense. Because only IPv4 needed to be updated. So last thing I'm going to try is having this so that it needs to update IPv4 and IPv6 simultaneously. I do not like those token expiry times. They're way too short. Alright, 127.0.0.1 and alright, now we're actually going to do 1 minute. My wait is the right wait. Because I think if I were to do dig like this, it says 60 seconds here, it says 60 seconds here. So if we just have it wait 1 minute, and I'll actually have it wait first, then this should work as expected. Oh. So I'll go check some email or something while this 1 minute is taking place. Check my email. Let's see. Oh, I've been chosen. Wow. I think a Nigerian prince would like to send me his wealth. Good thing I checked my email today. I was lucky indeed. All right, cool. So, unsetting IP addresses, okay. And updating IPv4, okay. Waiting to try again. Got it. Excellent. So that almost worked perfectly. Except for this should have been a printf. And remember, you can't do echo-in for Posix Shells. That's not defined. So you need to do printf instead. Echo in Posix Shells is much simpler just everything is simpler about the Posix shell. I don't know why anybody would ever want to use bash when the Posix shell is just so... Other than the fact that you generally learn a hodgepodge of bash and Posix when you're trying to learn the shell, because there is literally one book on the Posix shell. One. Exactly one. And it costs $800. It is the IEEE specification. It's also free. So the HTML copy is free, but the PDF is $800. And there is not a tool that I'm aware of that will convert the frame-based HTML watchamadoodle into a nice, clean, single page. Okay, so, yeah, unsetting the IP address. Now that's going to print out correctly. That was the only thing that seemed to be particularly wrong there. And then after, when it's doing the waiting, I would say let's go ahead and have this extra echo, this extra new line. Okay. And I actually think we ought to add 1 extra second just to account for, well, we already have that. All right, no change detected. Let's see what else. Kind of like the idea of having that none there. Let me just run that real quick. That's good. Good. Okay. So we got something usable. The README is documented differently from how we're going to use it. So I'm not going to update the README yet. But this will, well, I kind of want to update the README. Let me move the README to readme.back real quick. And then we will copy the readme.back to the readme. Because I want to have the documentation for this as well. So this install step, it's not there yet. But what we could do, let me go check this real quick. What we could do is, it should be the same as this. So say current install step is DuckDNS.sh. So we're going to say mkdir-p bin curl -o DuckDNS.sh. We can do that. Then we can chmod a + x local bin Actually, I kind of like the idea of just putting it up at the top level. I think that more default installations have that. So DuckDNS.sh. And then configure. And then we would have .config DuckDNS.sh. And then echo DuckDNS token equals, let's see, get your, oops, there we go, vim, let me actually have that like this, okay. What do I want to do from here? So we're going to have change me.env. I don't know quite how to do this. Get your DuckDNS token from, as well do, https duckdns.org. Create a subdomain such as changeme.duckdns.org. Alright. 1. Login to there we go. 2. Create a subdomain. Oops, such as change me for change me.org. Okay. Copy your DuckDNS token. Create your I almost did subdomain again. Subdomain token file. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. All right, there we go. Then we can say, whoops, place your token in the file as DuckDNS token equals your token. How many X's does it start with again? Ah. then DuckDNS token equals, and then we grab that example. Okay, there we are. So we configure. Need to create your account, subdomain, subdomain, and token before you can use DuckDNS.sh. Cool. Alright, and then our usage will be let's just go ahead and make this so that it does follow the one function that it's supposed to follow. Just like that. And then we'll make this 2 instead of making it 1. Oh, and I should have done this already, but I can make this executable, so I will. There we go. Make it executable. Should give me an error. Should still be an error. Should run. Actually, we're going to make that let's see. Run, not update. Oops. But update the README to make that run as well. And then I'm going to make this run foo. Continuously check for updates. Periodically, maybe? Subdomain. I don't know what the better word would be. Okay, and then we've got our license. There we go. And we've got our env file. Actually, I'm going to commit these one at a time just because the commit message is probably going to stick around for a long time. Update. Let's see. Continuously check IP and update domain. There you go, that's good. And doc, add basic, install, and usage instructions. Add example config file. I don't know what this test was about. Was that for math stuff? No, that was something else. Get rid of that. Okay. So there we go. And now I'm going to create the subcommands branch. I'm going to move the README over. And I am going to keep whoops. Oh, whoop. There we go. README.back. README.md. I am going to add the configure section. See. I think I'll actually add that afterwards for this one. And then I'm going to add the usage example here. Usage. All right. So I think that's about right. Yep, okay. So I'm going to go ahead and cancel that, and then I'm going to say whip doc. Actually, I'll call it whip. I'll just call it doc. Add sub commands and usage and examples. Oops. Looks like I don't have the... Oh gosh. It's so hard to keep track of all this stuff. I need to have this in my Beyond Code cheat sheet. Setting. I do have it on Twitter somewhere. In fact, I think I have it on the Beyond Code Twitter. A lot of the cheat sheet stuff ends up there. Let me just go take a look at this real quick. Let's see. Okay, get stuff. Somewhere in here. Ah, here we go. There we go. Now when I do git push, automatically creates the branch, and then I can go create the pull request so that while I am working on something, other people can see that I'm working on it. And let's see, I can say whip. Just docs so far. There we go. And now, since I have something working, whenever I have something working, we go to settings, we go to branches, and we add branch protection. And branch pattern name, main, require a pull request before merging. We're not going to require approvals because it's just me. Require signed commits, require linear history. Do not allow bypassing settings. And boom. What? Why is it not letting me use USB security key? Different device? What? No. I'm so confused. Is it because... I wonder if it's because this is Brave Beta, technically, that I'm in. I'll just have to enter it in from my phone. Alright. Let's go 385-632. Alrighty, cool. So now we've added branch protection rules, and that's my rule of thumb. Anytime something works, do whatever you want until something works. No rules until something works. We have something that works. We have something that is actually useful. So, this is you know, I would even say we could tag the main branch at this point because it is useful. There are instructions that will work. So I'm going to just try this out on my local machine real quick. So you're not seeing this, but I'm doing it. Oh, whoops! We do have a little typo, which I'm going to go fix right now. Oh no! I've already get checkout-b typo fix. So .local right there. This is what we should do here. And then you can have it like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There we go. That'll keep it the same. Okay. So with that, fix typo in install section, update usage. There we go. And I'm just going to go ahead and copy this, bring it around here. And then I'm just going to go ahead and bring it right on in. So normally for documentation updates, what I will actually do is I will include a link to, say, see preview at, and then put the link there. So now let's try this again. So I'm actually going to get rid of my .local, then duck, whoops, that wasn't, no, that was on my local computer actually. Local, then DuckDNS.sh, getting rid of it, pasting again. Alright, that worked. And now I'm going to run bin DuckDNS.sh, run okay, and I'm going to copy this over. Okay, there needs to be one other bit in here as well. Well, I guess technically it doesn't need to be there because it's right here. Okay. Okay, cool. Alright, so yes, that worked. So now that it worked, I'm going to get checkout main, get rebase, typo fix, get push. There we go. And we did this. Let me go back into the history real quick. 6 commits. So I'm going to put this in here. That's where we fixed that. And that is also where we fixed this. Okay, so we got to get the subcommand stuff and then maybe store this local IP address. But we're in a good spot. It's documented. It works to some degree. It is not what I want it to be yet, but it's not far off either. So maybe another hour, 2-hour session to work through the remaining pieces. This is actually far more sophisticated than the one I had locally. I thought we were just going to reproduce the one that I already have, but I don't know, just kind of talking through it and trying to make sure that all the bases are covered. And look here, we spent 3 hours and we've got 150 lines of shell after 3 hours. But it's tested, it's documented, so it's 3 hours well spent. Okay, let me go ahead and drop this. If you want to join in on the Discord, that link should pop up in just a moment. It actually should have already popped up. It looks like this got stuck on the Learn, Node, and JavaScript goodies. Interesting. So something kind of went up with Restream there. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and see if I can drop the Discord link. Let me see. Nope, that didn't do it. Refresh browser when scene becomes active. Let's try that. There we go. And then let me drop that link in there again. That's strange. Let me try refreshing my chat. I don't know what's going on there. So chat's not showing up here, but it is apparently showing up on Twitch. It's not showing up on YouTube, is what I'm seeing. But there's a link to the Discord on Twitch, so hop on Twitch if you want to get a link to the Discord. I'm going to go ahead and throw this in for Josue here. And then I'm going to head out for the night. So, thanks for joining in, those of you that joined in. I hope you have a wonderful noon, night, day, morning, whatever it is, wherever you are. I will catch you later, and we'll go ahead and perhaps do a quick raid. My view count is presently not working. Apparently a couple of things with Restream are broken right now, so I'll have to figure those out. Yeah, okay, so we got some people viewing. We'll go ahead,